Hi, I'm Pat Fiume. I've been a realtor for over 30 years. I'm a host of the American Dream Show. Welcome to my show, Is This for Real Estate? Welcome back. I'm here with Abby Cohler, an attorney that I use all the time and a very good friend of mine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good today.
So welcome back. You were my very first guest on my very first podcast, and we touched on attorney review and spoke about things that affect attorney review, but I realized we never talked about exactly what attorney review is. And it dawned on me, I picked up a buyer a couple of weeks ago that was working with another realtor, and they didn't know what attorney review was, and they were asking me questions. I thought, that's interesting.
Yeah. You know, I guess we're so used to it. It's such a integral part of every real estate transaction that we do, unless it's, a for sale by owner, but I guess we're just so used to it.
What exactly is attorney review?
Okay.
So we sign agreement of sale.
Right.
And
So
then
the agreement of sale that you're talking about is the standard residential real estate contract that all real estate agents use. I think it's statewide now. Used to be that there were differences between
different
North
counties
Jersey, North Jersey, South Jersey, the shore. It's a standard contract, so which means that buyer and seller, you have to sign this contract if you want to enter into this contract for the sale or purchase of the real estate. And in the state of New Jersey, and especially in this market, you kind of want to sign that contract pretty quickly if you're a buyer, because you're kind of afraid you're going to lose the property. But you have a 3-day period of time, and it's business days, not calendar days, for you to take it to an attorney and have the attorney go over the contract with you, and you can then have the attorney cancel the contract for any reason. If you have buyer's remorse or seller's remorse.
You really don't have to give a reason.
You don't have to give a reason.
You just cancel or disapprove it.
Yeah, just the attorney, you just have to have an attorney sign a letter saying, I cancel this contract and no reasons given. Or more likely, the attorney is going to say, I cancel the contract, I disprove the contract in the terms that the contract is, but I'm going to propose changes. And if everybody agrees on these changes, then you sign the attorney review letter, and then you're out of attorney review. And sometimes that you might be out of attorney review before the 3 days is actually over.
So if everybody comes to an agreement between the attorneys, or buyer or seller agree to sign what the other attorney's prepared, it ends attorney review before the 3 day is up.
Correct.
But when does the 3-day attorney review start? Is it it's the day after?
So it depends what day of the week it is, or if it's a holiday. It's the first full business day after everybody gets a copy of the contract.
They've received their fully executed. Like I always send an email to the other realtor, please acknowledge receipt, and I do it to my buyers or sellers too, that this fully executed contract and attorney review begins the following day.
Correct, the following bit. But if
There's
that
always
is
a
on a
discrepancy
Friday,
with some people
no,
about
it's
that.
true. I had one where
they said my day ends Tuesday, but theirs is Wednesday. I'm like, no, it's all the same 3 days.
Right, I had the same thing last week.
Yeah.
When does attorney review end? And one party signed it on Thursday, another one signed it on Friday, but Friday early in the morning still doesn't count, because it's when everybody gets the fully executed
Receives
copy.
a fully executed
And then
copy.
the weekend doesn't count. So today was day one. Wednesday will be the end of at 5 o'clock.
I was just going to say, because there's some realtors say, oh, it ends at 5 o'clock. Other ones say it ends at midnight, but it has to be business hours.
It's business hours.
It ends at 5 o'clock. So you can't get an attorney after 5 to write a letter. I mean, I have had it happen in the past a couple times. I had one couple years ago down the shore. Remember, I think I called you. It's like 11 o'clock. I'm Abby. I just got a letter to cancel the deal if we don't sign this by midnight. It was like 11 o'clock at night.
Oh,
this
I
is
know.
North Jersey attorney. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah,
I think I called you in a panic. I texted you and you called me back.
Yeah, it is crazy, because I might get I'm waiting for, I've got two right now, and I'm waiting for the one, and I wouldn't be surprised if I get an email at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, but that doesn't change anything. It's
still
business.
that
It's still the
specific
business
time
hours.
And if somebody tries to make a change after that, then all parties have to agree to it.
All
We
parties
do an
have to
amendment, or the attorney does a letter to change something.
So the effect of an attorney sending a letter saying, I disapprove of the contract and here are my proposed changes, in effect, it cancels the contract.
Right.
So if the other, so let's say it's the buyer's attorney sends this letter
Right.
proposing changes. And if the seller's not happy with that, or the seller has another buyer in the,
Yeah.
kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
in the background, they don't have to agree to anything and
I've
the
had-
contract's
yeah.
dead.
Or the buyer can say, I'm gonna cancel the attorney review letter. I've had that happen a couple times just to keep a house.
Just, right, yeah, right.
Which is a little scary because they have an attorney representing them, and then they have to circumvent their attorney if they want to keep the house, and
Right.
that's not fair because they have the
Right.
right to it. But this kind of market is feeding
Yes.
that a little bit. And I haven't seen too much of it. I saw a little bit of it last year. It
Last
happened on a
year.
couple deals where I had a couple people that had multiple bids, and
Yeah.
but I find we're getting back to a market where we're seeing more attorney review letters than I ever have. The last few years, it's been changing.
Yeah,
I've
it
seen a
has.
lot
It's
more.
definitely been changing. And yeah, you're right. It's kind of like you're straddling that line of what are acceptable changes
Right.
to be made if you're representing the buyer to not scare
Right.
away the seller.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
actually had a deal last year where I reviewed the contract and my clients were first-time home buyers and I proposed some changes and, my changes are not like
Right.
crazy. There's
Right.
some that
Unless
are
there's something
crazy.
on the other side that we know
Right.
about that's crazy.
Right, exactly, right. Sometimes an attorney review letter is needed. I've got one of the contracts, the seller's name is spelled incorrectly.
Right.
Or the date's wrong.
First question, what is today's date?
You need to make those changes.
Right.
But yeah, sometimes the changes are minor. They're, nobody's upset about the changes that you propose. Sometimes you get, a 7-page
Oh, yeah.
attorney review letter where the attorney tries to change every single, rewrite the contract.
Provisions, yeah.
But-
I've seen some of these, there's attorneys, particularly North Jersey, they have a pre-printed letter
Yes, it's
that they send
pre-printed.
out that's got like 7 pages, like you said,
Right.
and you're like, oh my God, what is this?
And
You know?
some of this stuff doesn't even apply if they
Exactly.
looked at the contract.
Or it's already in the contract. And I have a
Yeah.
question too, since we're talking about different things here, like time of the essence. So we're in South Jersey. North Jersey does not practice time of the essence, and I've had a couple deals
Right.
where they've tried to take it out.
Is our time up?
I feel that time of the essence is kind of it's definitely a South Jersey provision. Today, everything's kind of, between contract and closing date, it's like 30 to 45 days. I think you kind of get everything, you can get everything done. It's not horrible to take out time of the essence or just say the date should be reasonably construed, because sometimes closing ends up going a day or two
Right.
past, or if there's some kind of a repair that needs to be made,
And they need time to do that.
they need time to do that. If you take
Or
out
get a
time of the
CO.
essence, then you might not need to do an addendum or do a million addendums every time you need an
Keep
extension.
pushing it out,
Right.
yeah.
Another thing, especially with this market, or around the holidays, you can't get a home inspector.
I was gonna say, it's hard to get people during
Right,
the holidays or
right.
the weekends.
Or the weekends, or this market when when everybody's
Busy.
right?
Yeah.
And you're pushing up against that, 10-day or 14-day home inspection period,
Right.
And you're worried that you're not going to get the report done and ask for the repairs in time. So taking out like automatic waivers, where like if somebody doesn't get their home inspection, so a waiver is. So sometimes the standard contract will say, if the buyer doesn't get their home inspection and the report to the sellers within the
Right.
set period of time, they have then waived their
Their
right
right
to
to have an
ask for
inspection.
repairs. So taking out automatic waivers so that if they're a day or two late, you don't have to ask
For an
the seller
extension.
for an extension.
Yeah.
Just sometimes it makes it a little nicer.
So I think with today's market too, it's really good to have an attorney review contracts, because with dot loop and
right.
DocuSign and all these different ways that we sign electronically, nobody's really reading the contracts. There are people who do read them, but there's other people who are like, how come you didn't tell me about this? I said, well, I gave you a contract. I emailed you, you received it, but they don't read it. But if they have an attorney, they're going to review it and make sure they understand that contract.
That's correct. I agree. You will get a buyer or a seller who signs it electronically. You send them the contract, and I know you always send it via the DocuSign, or you also send them a PDF. But how many times do they print it out?
Right.
And I will review the contract with them, and I kind of say, did you print it out? You know, hopefully they printed it out and they can actually see it. But you're correct. We're all getting these documents, and they
It's
just
so
go
fast.
from, it's so fast. It's like, and especially if you're doing it from your phone.
Right, that too. I'm trying to look at it like.
Right, and it
doesn't, the whole
as soon
page
as you
isn't
sign
on
it,
there.
it goes right to the next sign. It doesn't,
It goes boom, boom, boom.
And it doesn't ask you, did you review it? Does it? Nope.
No, just sign.
Just sign,
and as you
initial,
hit it, it just,
boom. So just some pointers about if an estate, if if an estate is selling the decedent's real estate, got to make sure that somebody's actually been appointed as either executor if the decedent died with a will, or an administrator if they died without a will.
Right.
And I just had one where the children had not yet gotten appointed, and I did raise that to the buyer's attorney, and we put some language in that just so that the heirs couldn't, because they really weren't yet appointed, they couldn't then say, oh, we're not appointed and we found a new buyer.
Yeah, because that's one of the things that agents need to know, because
Right.
I've had deals that I've called you and I said, hey,
Right.
nobody's appointed, and like I can't, until they get that short certificate, I
Right.
can't even list the contract. Like our broker wants to see that in the file when they take the initial
Right,
file,
and
and I will get called.
We have an estate right now.
Yeah.
It took a while
Yeah.
for the client to get appointed, but now that she's appointed, we're gonna, get you in touch with her so
Yeah.
she can sign the listing agreement. But no, I think they didn't know that they had to get appointed, and the agent didn't know that there wasn't anybody
Yeah.
appointed. So I think it was
That's bad.
miscommunication.
Yes. Do you have any funny story or go-to stories that you tell at a party or anything?
Oh, and I did have an interesting closing. My client, today sellers are not really going to closing.
Right.
We're getting them to sign all the, this
Since
started
COVID.
Since COVID, and even maybe a little bit before.
Yes.
And usually get them to sign all the documents ahead of time. Well, I had a client, and they wanted to go to closing. They wanted to meet the family that was moving into their family homestead, and they brought something with them to closing. The urn.
Why do you even have this?
Oh, because this is my daddy. These are his ashes.
So that their parent
Could
was
meet them?
they could be a part of closing.
Oh, that's weird. That's interesting.
And I guess that was touching. It was kind of important to them for some
Yeah.
closure.
But for the poor buyer, they're
Yeah.
probably thinking, "Oh, there's grandma across the."
Yeah, as long as I know that some
I've never
buyers
heard that.
don't want to buy a house where somebody's passed away.
Yeah, I've had people ask me, "Did anybody
Yeah.
die in this house?" It's like you're not really allowed to tell them.
We had one years ago. Do you remember they? There's something about you're not
allowed to disclose
yeah.
that. I mean, if they
Because the buyer doesn't want to know, or if there's a murder.
They weren't gonna buy the house anyway. They weren't gonna buy it.
You scared them away!
No, they weren't gonna buy it. They couldn't even afford the financing.
Well, thank you for being a guest.
Thank you for
again
having
today.
me again. I'm getting more comfortable doing this.